I'm just gonna tell them that they can.
Hey.
Oh, I look a mess.
Well, we're starting.
Why is the music on?
I forgot to turn it off. Okay.
Oh.
You gotta move over so that we're more centered. There we go.
Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, I look a hot mess. This is a horrible. We will not be saving this recording. The devil is a lie. Hey, look at you.
You do realize what the internet is. It's like this big web where everything goes out in public. And once it's out there, you can't do nothing about it.
We're just going to delete it when we're done. Yeah.
No, we're not.
Hey, everybody. Yes, we are. Hey. Okay, now that we're done with our argument, welcome to the family meeting.
Kevin. Why isn't Kevin here? He on?
Oh, hey, Kevin. I didn't know. Hey, fam. Hey, Tiana. Girl, we were, where did we go? We went to Colorado. Mm-hmm. We were in Colorado. So last week, the family meeting was on Tuesday, and we talked about that movie Unspoken, the documentary Unspoken with from Jude 3.
Can't speak about it.
Why can't we speak about it?
It's unspoken.
Oh, shut up. Yeah, so hey, Linda, Auntie Linda. Hey, Brandon. Brandon, I got your text message. I forgot to respond. I'm sorry, but yes is the answer.
Get used to it, Brandon.
You're so mean. The Lord don't like ugly. Goodness. We are going to do a quick family meeting tonight because because Pauline is in town.
How come she's not here at the family meeting?
She ain't ready.
Everybody wants to meet her.
She ain't ready. Plus, we're having a family dinner. And so
at your brother's house?
Yeah, my brother's house. And they're a ways away. So yes. How have you been?
How have I been?
Yes. Tell the people.
Fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Stop
it. No.
How do you think Colorado went? We spoke at Summit Ministries in Colorado Springs. Not Colorado Springs. It's called Manitou Springs. Manitou
is right outside of Colorado Springs.
Just outside of Colorado Springs. It's a special little community.
It's interesting. It's like a cross between a tourist trap, sort of like when we went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, but smaller.
Yeah. That was a special area too.
Yeah, like kind of rural, mixed with marijuana culture. But then there was Summit Ministries, the great worldview training camp. And then you go down the road a little bit and there's just a lot of poverty.
It was an interesting mix. It was very, very interesting. A lot of weed dispensaries.
Yes.
I was like, my goodness.
A lot of marijuana culture is what I call it.
Yes. Then there was a time when we turned the corner and we see an herb store. And Chris is like, hey, can we go to the herb store? I wonder if they have tea. Yeah, no.
I didn't know what it was.
No, we're not going to the herb store. It was a special moment. All right, let's jump in. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay.
Which is...
Well, you're going to do the thing first.
What thing?
The other thing.
Oh, well, gosh, it's a little bit of a preview. Kevin and I are going to record an off-code episode tomorrow, and we are going to be looking at what we're calling the Black Pass. And it's really
like a fast pass at Disneyland?
It is kind of like a fast pass at Disneyland. Like you just get to slip in to the front of the line. And we're going to be looking at...
You got to move over. We're off center.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
We're going to be looking at, within Black culture, how many times people get a free pass. So let's take, for instance, Kevin, if you don't think I'm doing it justice, go ahead and put it in the chat. Let's look at Kirk Franklin or some of the gospel artists who definitely are very public in some of their views on like race things, or have been very public in like cussing people out or things like that. Well, because they're Christian, we kind of give them that pass. They Black Christian, we like their music, we just gonna give them that pass. I'm thinking of like, I just saw Yolanda Adams in something. I got an advertisement in my feed for something she's doing, I think with Tyler Perry. It might not be, but she's playing a certain character, and she's in this one episode like cussing or whatever, but she's Yolanda Adams, y'all, so she get the pass. Or you can
who's Yolanda Adams? That's a new name for me.
Oh honey, you need to repent.
I don't know.
Auntie Yo-Yo.
I don't know who that is.
She's a really good gospel artist.
Oh, okay.
But or you
She's
can
she's a
even
gospel
look
singer.
at Tyler Perry. Tyler starting out, with like the plays and things like that. And yeah, I know people would be like, well, he started out off because he started out dressing like a woman. Give him a pass. But you know, when I look at like Tyler Perry from the beginning to Tyler Perry today, and like the sex scenes in his movies, and the swearing, and the half naked ladies, and the half naked men, and all of that, and people are like, well, he talk about Jesus, he's a Christian, he'll get up and he'll win an award, and what is the first line that he says? First giving honor to God. So are we giving a black pass to people who say that they're Christian, and what does it look like?
Okay, so we don't want to give the whole episode away, but this is something to look for on Off Code. We had an Off Code episode drop last week, so we got some good things coming up. So go check out Off Code. You can search for it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for the audio version, and it's also available on YouTube.
Yes. And we also might hit on that Beyonce fiasco with church girls. Yes. You guys.
She's like a famous person.
I guess it's like when you asked me if I knew who, what was his name? Travis Tritt. Whatever. Yes. Beyonce's a famous person. Yeah, and her whole fiasco with buying the Clark Sisters songs, one of the Clark Sisters, I want to say it was Dorinda. So yes, we're gonna be getting into some things and keeping it real on Off Code when we record tomorrow.
We have cultural divide here.
Yes, I'm gonna need you to come this way. Come on.
So I've been reading. Speaking of that, I've been reading today.
Tony Evans.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, hey, man, Tony Evans' book, Oneness Embrace. It's the new 2020 edition. I know that book's been out for like 10 plus years or so, but he updated it, and so I've been reading the updated edition today and working my way through that. So interesting stuff. So I'll probably do a review of it in the future.
Yes.
On a family meeting.
Yeah.
So it's like there's huge chunks of it that I was like, oh yeah, I totally agree with all this. And there's some parts of it I was like, okay, I'm not sure where this is going yet. So I'm trying to have open mind about it.
Yeah. So, and then she has to tell me all about it. She's like, you're not going to believe what he just said. It's very funny. It's very funny. And my review of The Hate You Give is finally going to come out soon. I just looked at
it's a small book.
I just finished the very last edit, so it should be going to get, all of whatever happens to it after we edit it all. Yeah, so it should be out soon. I'm very excited about that. And just want to say thank you to the CFBU team. It takes a team of people to get resources out from, Krista and I, like writing something. That's one very small part, but to have it edited, to have graphics added, to get it, coded and ready to be put up, somebody else actually putting it up, and all of that, it takes a team of people. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone. Thank you, Nina, so much for the diligent and hard work of trying to understand what's going on in my mind when I write something.
Yeah, Nina's our editor. She edits all our blog posts. She's amazing.
She is.
And also we have, speaking of resources and graphics, sorry.
Want water?
No, I'm okay. My throat's just a little tight. The Reconciled curriculum is now available in print. It's for sale on Amazon. If you want to go on Amazon directly, you can just type in Reconciled. You'll see it. If you want to get there and see the other options of how the curriculum is available, just go to our website, centerforbiblicalunity.com, and you can go to the curriculum page and check that out.
What would be super helpful is if you have Reconciled, or after you go through Reconciled, please leave a review on Amazon so people know that it's like legit, and
that helps the algorithms.
Yeah, it helps the algorithms. It pushes it up to the top. It lets people know that we're not just out here, saying anything and everything about reconciliation, but that we are truly approaching it from a biblical position. I did an interview yesterday with Corey Miller. He's the president and CEO of Ratio Christi. And just listening to his thoughts about reconciled, I was like, wow. Wow,
Yeah,
we
so
did
we need
that.
those
Look
reviews.
at Jesus.
So
Yes.
go write a review if you guys have been through it. That would really be super helpful to us.
Yes.
So, okay, let's get into our topic. So what are we doing?
Minneapolis.
Yes.
We are going to look at a school district, the Minneapolis school district is looking at how they can have better representation, ethnic representation amongst their teachers. And so they have a plan. And I don't know if it's the best plan, but they have a plan.
It's been all over Twitter this week. I called this injustice or representation, and kind of the social media Twitter version of all of this controversy that you see, like if you only got like 140 characters or whatever it is on Twitter, is that the Minneapolis school district is going to fire white teachers first.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's part of the story, but
that's kind of,
but what I'm hoping people get from our discussion today is talking about, first of all, if you see something on Twitter, just know, or on any social media, just know the algorithms are always working against you. Like it's designed to get you enraged. It's designed for you
to play with your emotions.
Yeah, to get you up in the morning, and then you click on it and you're like, well, what stupid thing did they do today? And then it's like that's part of the design of the algorithm. So don't play into that. Go click on it. Look, don't just click on tweet or retweet or whatever, share it out, send it to 1,000 of your closest friends. Take the time, do your due diligence to go look at it, read it in context. Today I was watching a video. The clip I saw was horrible. And I'm like, I'm wondering if these comments are in context or not. So I did my due diligence, went over to YouTube, did a little bit of detective work, found the actual video, started watching it. I was like, yikes, these comments are real.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that case, it turned out to be real. So, but take the time to do your due diligence. So that's kind of the tip number one. So headlines everywhere on Twitter are getting people racially riled up because
that's the goal.
That's the goal.
The goal is to keep you in your racial emotions, people.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Let's do it
and walk people through it of what is really happening in Minneapolis. Okay, so here we go.
Minneapolis teacher contract language disrupts seniority to protect educators of color. See, I think even the title.
Star Tribune, which is the main local newspaper in the Minneapolis area. Mm-hmm. So that's what this is from.
So it says Minneapolis Public Schools, one of the most diverse districts in the state, has long recognized its need for more teachers of color, but 50 of them are losing their current positions this fall, the result of cuts largely tied to enrollment losses. Now, there has been a huge, which I don't think many people know, that there's been a huge surge in families, especially Black families, leaving public schools and opting into
other
homeschooling
options.
or other options. Yeah. Yes.
And I was just noticing here that this date is all the way back from June. So this is a few months old.
Yeah.
But it was just making the rounds on Twitter this week.
It was just picked up officially. And so what the goal is, let me just read the next paragraph. It says, by next spring, however, teachers of color in the district will have new safeguards. The agreement that ended the 3-week teacher strike this spring includes contract language that appends the traditional last in, first out hiring policies as a way to retain members of populations underrepresented among licensed teachers.
So typically when enrollment drops, how they handle compensating for that is laying off newer teachers. Mm-hmm. There's a seniority structure. Mm-hmm. So those who have been teaching, 20, 30 years, even if enrollment drops, they're still pretty secure in their job.
Yeah.
Whereas if
Job
teachers,
security.
teachers only 2 or 3 years into their contract, they're the ones that are first to go.
Yes.
So that's part of how they have structured their system.
When I was reading this, my first thought was, well, I wonder why something like student surveys or parent surveys wouldn't play a part in that. Like, just because you've been teaching for 40 years doesn't mean you're good at it.
Yeah, that's called,
meritocracy?
Yeah.
I think that's the word we're looking for.
That's the word we're looking for,
That's
which
it.
is a form
Of whiteness.
Yes. But, so there's certain challenges. All right, let's keep reading here, and then we'll maybe come back to that point, because I think that's worth discussing.
Let's scroll. Okay. The new contract makes Minneapolis one of the only school districts in the country with such seniority disrupting language. District and union leaders say they hope it helps foster a teaching staff that better mirrors the demographics of the pupils they work with, more than 60% of them students of color. Currently, about 16% of the school district's tenured teachers and 27% of its probationary teachers are people of color.
And they're really looking for this in the very next sentence here to be a national model. They're being quite intentional about, this is the future. But so this is the question is, do we want this to be the future?
Well, I think we can ask other questions as well. While I believe that to a degree representation is something that we should have a conversation about, can we ask the question why there aren't more teachers of color in this area?
Mm.
Maybe people of color in this area don't want to go into teaching. Maybe it's an area that's highly engineering focused. Maybe it's highly medicine focused. Like, you know what I mean? To just say that we now need more teachers of color. Well, where are you going to get these teachers of color from if they're not going to teacher school?
So Brandon's asking, is this due to an increase in homeschool? I don't know what it's due to. It's just student enrollment's going down. The article isn't saying what is causing that drop in enrollment. But we do know in other states, Texas, for example, I think in particular, the African American demographic of homeschooling is like gone up by a factor of 6 in the last year. So,
Kevin, I don't know if it was in our group. Kevin, I think it's in our group, that homeschooling article. If it is in our group, can you post it in the comments there? But I just read a whole article. I think it was in the group that I'm in with Kevin, in Kevin's group, that looked at homeschooling and the amount of homeschoolers, how homeschooling has just burst, especially with Black families.
Yeah. So your question is okay, kind of 2 issues here. One is the importance of representation, which we're going to get into a little bit more here in the next paragraph. But what representation is that when a pupil goes to school,
Mm-hmm.
they see teachers that reflect their culture. And so this is a little bit more broad in saying teachers of color, but I think what they're really going for is an assumption that there's some shared culture there.
Yes, but one, we have to look at percentages correctly. It's like if Blacks are somewhere between 12 and 13% of the population,
mm-hmm.
How many teachers would you need to be able to have if we're looking at it as a national model, what percentage of teachers would you need to now go to teacher school to be able to have representation for every area or every child to be able to experience a teacher of color and to have representation within their education system? I feel like that's a little bit, like that's a big, not even that it's a big goal, because I can get on board with big goals. It just doesn't seem realistic.
Well, and Minneapolis is a very interesting and diverse area. There's a large Somali Muslim population there. And from what we understand, based on what my uncle said, is they almost have their own schools.
Mm-hmm.
They're public schools, but they're kind of doing their own thing. I don't quite understand how that works. They got a large Hmong population that's been there a few decades now. They've got a significant African American population, and then they got the descendants of the old world white Lutherans, there. So it is an interesting mix of people there in that area. But if 16% of the district's tenured teachers and 27% of its probationary teachers are the teachers of color, they're thinking, well, how do we kind of hedge them from losing this small number that we already have? So the thought is, well, we're going to let go more of some of the senior teachers who are white. So that's my understanding of what they're doing.
I wish it would have told us more of like, this is how many teachers, this is the percentage that we need to make it an equitable, kind of situation. I just don't, I don't necessarily see.
All right, well,
this as being the solution.
Let's keep going here.
Thanks, Kevin.
Tiana's asking, is there a correlation between COVID and homeschool? Well, I certainly think that there's a lot of correlation that can be pretty easily demonstrated. The question is it causation? That's always a different question. But because of so many kids being at home and parents having heightened awareness about what their kids were learning, and then all of the social unrest combined with other factors, definitely there's been big pushes. For example, now Arizona is basically restructuring their whole education system by using these education savings accounts. Other states are looking at that because parents want to be more in control. And their eyes were opened, I think. And so different parents are solving those problems different ways. One of the ways is through homeschooling. One of the ways is starting like these little kind of pod schools of families getting together and helping each other. Enrollment in online schools is going up. So there's more educational diversity, which I celebrate. I have been for 30 years a proponent of more educational options. So I think COVID was possibly just the trigger that brought it onto more people's awareness. So.
Tiana, check out the article that Kevin posted about homeschooling among the Black community.
Yeah, it's on the Free Black Thought Substack. So, all right, let's continue here and read a little bit more of this article. So here's a claim.
Yeah, when I saw this, having a teacher of color can boost academic performance, graduation rates, and even attendance for students of color, according to a report by the Learning Policy Institute, a national education research nonprofit. But last in, first out policies are designed to protect more senior teachers, a higher percentage of whom are white. Again, while I do think that we can have conversations on representation and what representation looks like and if it actually is important and things like that, I'm here for that conversation. I don't know that representation is a better benefit or a more worthy goal than having a teacher who may be white but can actually teach and get the job done. I'm not saying that teachers of color can't teach and get the job done. I just think that we should, instead of saying, for the sake of representation, we are going to, create a pathway to keep teachers of color and fire white teachers or lay off white teachers, shouldn't we be looking at who can actually get the job done? Who is creating the better classroom model? Who is, helping our children to achieve and succeed at the highest rate? And you keep that person.
So that's my mother worked in public education for 40 years. And I know that, that was always a tension in the union meetings about creating what was called, it used to be called back in the 80s, because this is a long-standing controversy. It was called merit-based pay. And the unions absolutely would not let that go forward, where pay would be attached to things like test scores or performance of students and that sort of thing. What you're suggesting would really break the unions as they currently operate, where then teachers wouldn't be able to engage in collective bargaining per se, and make things based more on whether or not you're a good teacher. And then we'd have to have the conversation about how do we objectively measure that? How do we keep teachers from what my mother was always concerned about was having teachers who would cheat and teach to the test so that their student scores would go up, or grade inflation. And so, like one interesting idea you had is parent reviews. So in principle, I think that, a merit-based system would be better, but I think it would require a lot more observation from administrators and interaction. But you'd be effectively breaking the whole idea of collective bargaining.
Yeah, and see, I kind of say break it. I like Tiana's comment. She says, I feel like there is often an assumption that people of color will do better with people of color. I don't care your color. I want to know what you are doing. Yes. I don't care. You can be polka dotted. I do not care. What are you doing with my kid? That's what we need to know. Are you actually doing what you're being paid to do? And if not, then you need to go. And that doesn't matter what your skin color is. But now we've gotten to this place of, we need to have representation, and we need to have people of color everywhere. And so we do that to the point where we now force it. But I don't want to be a teacher because I don't want to deal with Pookie and them kids. Pookie and them niece and nephew need to go on and stay over there because I am not the teacher for you. This teacher believes in throwing hands. Come at me crazy. But, and I wonder too, like there is, it takes a very special kind of person to be a teacher. That isn't for everyone. But then you now are saying like, well, so many percentage of Black folks should be teachers so that we can have representation. What if we don't want to be teachers? What if we don't like Pookie and them kids? What if I can deal with my own nieces and nephews and that's it? That's it. And sometimes, I deal with them on a one-on-one basis every other month.
Make sure they wash their hands.
Kids is nasty.
I know, you always say that.
Kids is nasty. They don't want to wash their hands, licking poles and all kind of stuff. But that's the truth. It's like, who is going to be the best person to deal with children? People of color, quote unquote, might not be the best person to do that.
So Kevin has an interesting comment here. You can't bypass the Civil Rights Act on the basis of diversity. You can't hire or fire based on race. This is a very interesting question. I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. I've had 2 meetings with her now. She's an employment attorney. And we were having this very conversation as she's looking at the law and then looking at standard diversity trainings and asking questions about whether or not some of these hiring practices actually violate certain employment laws. And she's asking some very interesting questions. And I think that, I'm not an advocate necessarily for the current union structure of first in, last out either, the seniority path. I actually would love to see more of a free market when it comes to education. And so the more that we can, I'm not a big teacher union person. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm just not a fan. I do see a place for collective bargaining potentially, but the way that the teacher union is structured and their value system, I just don't believe in it. I'm much more of a proponent of free markets, but whatever we're doing, we can't be violating the Civil Rights Act and creating hiring decisions based on ethnicity, because that's not allowed. So
maybe white people aren't considered in the Civil Rights Act.
I don't know. It's an interesting question.
I mean, that's the way that things are starting to frame up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So Tiana says teaching in certain environments takes a special person as well. And sometimes that isn't a person of color.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes, it's just, teaching is rough. It takes a lot of different skill sets. So, okay. Why don't you read this one?
What if I don't want to read that one? I'm just playing. Somewhat relevant for college professor job boards, they put diversity higher, which means if you are white, do not bother applying because they don't want you. Yes. Now, here's something else that's interesting about college diversity. Because Yeah, I'm gonna
Are
go
you
there.
really gonna do?
I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go
Now
there
be
all the way.
careful.
I am. I'm gonna be careful. So many universities
Because I'll cut. I can end this stream at any time.
You
All
wouldn't
I gotta
dare.
do
The
is
devil is a lie.
click
I
this
am
little
not
button right
afraid of
here.
you. I am not afraid of you.
All right.
So there are within many colleges, Christian colleges and universities, it's already in secular colleges and universities, but now this component where diversity, equity, and inclusion must be implemented in every department. And so it's the department chair's job to make sure that each class has some form of diversity, equity, and inclusion embedded within the curricula. So it's creating
Enter your girl.
Yeah. It's creating this 2-track system of justice, a 2-track conversation on diversity, equity, and inclusion. One from the more critical race theory perspective, and one from a biblical perspective. And so, what we're seeing at some colleges and Christian colleges and universities, is that I can receive an invitation to come and speak in a classroom or to a
People are
department.
trying to meet their diversity.
They're meeting
goals
their diversity goals, and
by
so
calling us and asking Monique to come to their class
to be able to give the biblical perspective on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice. And then the other teachers who have the CRT band, well, they can bring in their people. So, one day I might show up on a college campus and it'll be me and who? Ibram Kendi. Me and Jamara Tisby. Bam, bam, just next door to each other, because
both sides of the conversation.
This teacher has a more historically biblical framework. This teacher has a more worldview impacted by the critical social theories. And so I'm finding it interesting. I've received 2 invitations so far to come and give the diversity piece, yeah, but from the historically Christian
And then
position.
I said, well, can I come? I'm a co-founder of a ministry on race and justice. Can I help them reach their diversity goals too?
And I said, yes, if you want me, you get her too. Yes, we are that pair. But I mean, like, honestly, how if you would say no, a white person can't come and talk to us about diversity, you need to be aware of the fact that you are participating in the same thing that you would say you dislike on the other side. So we're going to smash this conversation that truth is attached to color. We're going to say, no, we are going to offer you a biblical position, the biblical truth, the word of God. And we're not going to participate in that baloney, that malarkey.
All right. Rihanna's got a comment.
Hey, Rihanna. I heard a comment today about this regarding Black teachers being more able to challenge Black kids without the concern of being called racist, understanding that teachers of all ethnic backgrounds will have the ability to teach well. She just, sorry, I can't read the rest of it. Where is it?
Was just referring to the fact that white teachers may have to deal with that concern more now than before.
I was talking with someone day before yesterday, and the comment was, well, I'm a 50-year-old white, da 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 da, and so I can't really, speak into this area. I believe that as Christians, and I know that, when you enter into the secular realm, there's all of this other conversation, but as Christians, we need to uphold the fact that if I'm offering you truth, that is regardless of my skin color. I know people are like, math is racist and all that, but let's be real, 2 and 2 is always going to equal 4. And so that is going to be a truth that sits outside of my skin color. We can't just always associate truth with skin color. We also need to be able to say, look, if you are a Black child and you are receiving correction from a white teacher, it might not be because that teacher is racist. It might be because you wilding out and you need to calm down. But where we are, I think, in our culture right now is, well, if the white teacher doesn't also talk to the white student who might not be doing nothing, well, then that's racist. No, we need to bring ourselves back. You need to train your child to be able to go into the classroom and do what they're supposed to do, which is to be educated. And, kind of understand that, yes, racism does happen, but not every incident is a racist incident just because somebody had to talk to your child. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I want to go back to the article for a minute,
Mhm.
because the claim is that representation, having a teacher of color, can boost academic performance, graduation rates, and attendance. That might be true. I haven't looked at this Learning Policy Institute report or how they did things, and that might be true. But I'm thinking that there could be other cultural factors that could also contribute.
Like Black fathers?
Well, I mean,
Or like I'm trying to understand like
yeah,
where you're going.
I just think, when you look at, um, I think the two most, when you look at groups like Chinese students,
Mhm.
for example, who excel
Mhm.
in school, but often are, I think, probably underrepresented in their teachers, and not seeing someone who shares
Come on.
their cultural history.
Mhm.
Whereas the parents at home have created a culture
Yes.
of pushing that child, and when they're on the weekends, they're still doing the math.
Yep.
And so I know this is tricky, because I'm not trying to insinuate that other minorities don't love their children enough, to push them in school, or that somehow other minority children aren't intelligent. I think they absolutely are. But I
But it
guess,
is a cultural issue.
but there's
I
like a
personally
Jewish,
believe.
like in a Jewish family, you're just expected that you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or something of that nature. If you're born into an Egyptian family,
You're gonna be a dentist.
you're going to be a doctor, a
Mhm.
dentist, an engineer,
Yeah.
something of this nature.
An academic.
There are certain cultural things that happen, and so I want to know, like, could that also be a factor?
I definitely think it is. There's a study done by, I want to say it was in the early 2000s because he's passed on, but his name is John Ogbu, OGBU. And he was I want to say he was a Nigerian anthropologist, but he did a lot of study in an Ohio neighborhood that was like 50-50 black white. And his study revealed a lot about the culture in which Black students were participating. And he brought up things like the shame that happens when you speak with a proper accent, when you're not using slang, the teasing that occurs when you get good grades, how a lot of the Black children were going home to want to play basketball and want to be on video games and do all of those things rather than sit down for hours and do your homework. And so do I honestly, and this is just my position, this is not, Krista's position or anything like that. Do I think that, within the Black community, and when I say Black community, I'm using more of this like overall, nationwide kind of, is there something that Black people can look at? Yes, but I think that that's within any culture too. Like if you see something that's happening within your culture, or your culture more at large, you can investigate and say, I wonder why that is. I wonder what else. So if this teacher study isn't correct, if having teachers of color, because I can go down to Crenshaw High and see a bunch of teachers of color in LA. And I can still see one of the, at the time when I was in high school, one of the lowest graduation rates. Crenshaw High, when I was coming up, they didn't have books. I had friends who went to Crenshaw High and they learned how to do nails and to braid hair. They didn't learn history. And so, what is it about this idea that having representation is going to actually create a more equitable education system or more equitable results as far as graduation rates go? Because when I think you bring up a good point, you can look at Chinese students and say, well, they don't have representation within their schools either, oftentimes. But yet look at the results there. I'm leaning more toward what is happening in the community and what's happening at home, and how are people being challenged and pushed to do something that is different. And how do student on student, how do they taunt each other? Are you, just acting white when you speak with a certain tone, or when you get a certain grade, or if you you want to go on this field trip or become part of this charter school and things like that?
Yeah, I think, it's it's such a there's so many factors, like poverty can be a real hindrance to getting an education, because you know there's obstacles, you know, sometimes for those students there's more obstacles. But at the same time, you know, I'm not sure that all of those obstacles will merely be overcome simply by having a teacher who shares your culture.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of variables.
Yeah.
And, you know, we could have the conversation about, you know, what the research says. And the John Ogbu, there's a summary of that research in the book, Please Stop Helping Us,
Mm-hmm.
by Jason Riley, if people want to dig into that deeper. But yeah, there's just so many things. There's fathers in the home. There's the home culture, the broader culture
Yeah.
that the family belongs to, the messaging, peers, teachers could be definitely one of those variables. But a teacher who's really can teach and is very effective, regardless of their skin color or their culture, would probably be the best case scenario for that child.
Yeah.
So
I think that's Rihanna who makes a good point. I only saw the end of the comment.
here, I'll put it
But
up there.
like I believe we need teachers of all kinds who aren't scared to speak truth and walk in their strength of teaching regardless. Trust God for grace and favor. But ultimately, I think that if teachers are in the classroom scared
or intimidated,
they're not going to be able to do their jobs well. And I completely agree. And I think that we also have to have that side of the conversation. Like, how are we creating atmospheres for learning?
yeah.
That's a pivotal part of the conversation. But I also think that a lot of that starts at home. You know, like when I send you as my child to school, I send you to do this. It's just like you going to work, honey. You're going to have a job. What is your job? You got all these things. This is what you're supposed to do. You're going to sit there. You're going to learn. You're going to read. You're going to participate. You will, you know, be active in conversations. Like there's things that you're going to do. And it doesn't have to be just so robotic. That's where the teacher part comes in, and they create this atmosphere where kids can thrive. You don't just have to sit there bored. But
yeah, and
you know,
Tamara says the same thing. It starts in the home. And yet, like I said, for 30 years I've advocated, I hear you, Mel, that she loves that more Black families are using their agency to choose what is best for their child's education. I'm an enormous proponent, sorry guys, but breaking teacher unions, because to me, when you talk about your friends at Crenshaw High that didn't even have books, that frustrates me to hear that. And if more free markets were involved, there was more choice, that kind of shenanigans, I think, would start shutting down.
I remember having a conversation with you early on about schools, and you were like, "There's schools have so much money," and I was like, "That's such BS. What are you talking about? Only white schools have money." And we went around and around and around, and I was like, my friends went. I didn't go to high school. Ninth grade was like the last final grade, and then I did some 10th, but no, I didn't finish. But you know, my friends who were in high school, in Crenshaw High, or goodness, even like at Audubon Junior High or Washington High School, and being like, they didn't have books. Like they were sharing books. You had to leave your book for the next class. I think that was like an eye opener. You were like, what?
That is wrong, you know. But there's just so much massive corruption and siphoning off of money that should go to students. I mean, on average, if you average it out across all the states, our federal government, and what they pay at the federal and state level, on average, our taxes are paying $13,000 per student.
Yeah.
On average.
Per year, right?
Per year. Yeah. I homeschooled my kids about $1,000 a year for books, classes, all of that.
And they're doing okay, right?
They're doing okay.
They're all right.
They're all right.
All right.
Yeah. So, but you know, I want families that live in poor urban areas to have more options. I am a proponent of more options.
I love this. How the brain works is not based on your skin color.
Yep.
I agree.
Kevin. Yeah. All right. What's Kevin?
I grew up in the inner city. The color of the teacher was irrelevant to whether or not a kid wanted to learn. There's that.
Kevin says I was not allowed to bring home bad grades.
See? Joanne didn't play.
Yeah. Let's see. We got more comments here. Tiana says expectations for a student from their parents is a must.
Yes.
Tramaris. I'm a retired college professor. I'm Asian. Oh, okay. I never looked at the color of my students. I treated them all the same. Okay.
Hey, Kim.
All right. Tiana says, when I lived in Southern California, we had 2 sets of books, one for home and one for school.
I need to know what part of Southern California was that and at what time? Because I missed that round. Yes.
Yeah. Now, see, this is a comment. This is what hurts my heart is it's unacceptable how undervalued working class students are. They have so much potential. No more wasting their God-given potential. And that's what has driven me for so many years to be an advocate for more choices in education. Because to me, the middle class, the working class, the lower socioeconomic class, they deserve a quality education too.
Yes.
Their kids are just as smart. They have just as much God-given potential, but looking toward a big bureaucracy of the government will not solve that problem. I'm always an advocate of the more local solution, the better to start out with. So let's see. Okay. Uncle Mike's coming on here.
As Kevin said, values and culture are important, especially at home. When I was growing up in the 70s, education was highly valued in the Black community. You did not play with school or your education. We were expected to do well in school by our parents and grandparents, no excuse. And our teachers reinforced that. I once went from a B+ to a C in English. My teacher called my grandmother in, and my grandmother was like, "Get it right. Don't play." Yeah. That's how they say it to you, but you better get it right. That's it. Pauline and Joanne should have their own YouTube channel. I'm telling you. Pauline, yeah. We've talked about that, but I don't know if either Pauline or Joanne is really ready. I don't know if I'm ready. Yeah, me and Kevin, we got to get our own hearts right.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Jeff Davis says government schools are so bloated with money and is wasted. This is what
Uncle Jeff.
What I'm trying to say. The only acceptable solution to solving these problems is we need more money. Exactly. And there's so much research that says money has nothing to do with the quality of education.
Yeah.
It's the quality of the teacher, the family environment, all those other factors. Kimberly says, I love it when I see a story trending and tune into the family meeting as the topic of discussion. Yes. All right. Getting a lot of good comments here. I have black, white, and in between teachers. Only one was not so good. She was mean to all the kids.
There's that.
Not just certain kids of color, Rihanna says.
One of my favorite teachers was my 5th grade teacher.
Was that the Black Panther?
She was. I remember she used to send me, because I was the tallest student in the class, and I looked older. She would send me to the liquor store to buy her cigarettes. I'm not gonna put her name out there just because I know some people, be watching. But yes, she would send me to the store to buy her cigarettes, and she was the Black Panther.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh.
I thought somebody said.
All right, I think that's it.
Is 7th grade too late to pull a kid
out of
public school? My daughter's going into 7th grade, and I want to. No, girl, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Do what is best for your child. It is never too late. I know parents who have pulled their kid out just their senior year to give some deep dive worldview training. No, it is not too late ever. 7th grade. You just start a whole new trajectory.
Even if you're like in the 1st or 2nd week of school, you can still pull them out anytime. There's tons of resources available. If you don't even know where to start, I think Melissa Doherty just did a video because she just started homeschooling her kid. We have videos on our stream talking about homeschooling. Email us here at the ministry. I'll try to get you connected with
Yeah,
somebody.
email us email info@centerforbiblicalunity.com.
Yeah.
And our assistant email answers that, and just write
Yeah,
in
you
there.
don't-
Krista
should-
told me to write in about homeschooling,
Yeah.
and we will.
Shamika,
Yes,
you don't know where to start. That's okay, sister.
girl, email us.
Yes,
Email us.
that is actually the best time to start is middle school, because that's where things start going off the rails.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, do it. There's tons of resources available.
Somebody-
Even if you don't know what to do, there's resources even for that, of what, the on-ramp.
Shamika Trimaris on the string says they would be happy to assist in the education of your child. Shamika me Trimaris me Shamika. We just gonna go ahead and do it like that.
Yeah, Rihanna's homeschooling.
Yes.
She's a African-American mom homeschooling her teenagers.
Shamika, if we're not friends on Facebook, friend me and send me a
Yeah.
message in my DM.
Rihanna
We can
says
connect
she'll
that
help
way.
you out with your
Yeah.
questions. We will, we are behind you.
Yes. My favorite teacher in 4th grade, Uncle Mike. My favorite 4th grade teacher was white, Mr. Bath. He nurtured my love for science, and I found him on Facebook a couple of years ago. Aw.
That's awesome.
Are you crying?
Yes.
For what? What's wrong? What happened? Who did it?
No,
Was it Mr. Bath?
No. I just am.
I know the way family. See, this is what we talking about. This is family. When family come around and we just. Oh, girl,
I know.
You can go ahead and cry. Look at me. This is me being compassionate, because she's saying I'm never compassionate toward tears. There you go. Let me rub your back like they do in the black church when you get a little overwhelmed. Okay, I don't.
Yes,
scratched you.
Shamika wanting to homeschool her kid.
That's awesome. Yes, we say go for it. Monique, where's your shirt from? It's from Carlton. What's Carlton's last name? It's not Carlton. Carlin.
Yeah, what is his last name?
I'm just blanking on it right now.
I know he's from Houston, outside Houston. He's the Erase Race guy.
Yes, but his organization is Erase Race. And so he drove from Houston down to Dallas, or up to Dallas when we were there one of our last times for a meetup, and he gave us both shirts, and Krista's worn hers a couple times. This is my first, I've worn it, but this is my first time actually wearing it on a live.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you look up Erase Race, that's our friend.
Yeah, Carlin.
He's a good guy.
It's not Carlin James, it's Carlin something.
The ex-military guy.
Yeah, but he's
it's kind of a secular racial unity movement.
No. Carlin?
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
No, he's working with a lot of.
He's a Christian.
Oh, okay.
But I think he takes his message around to like public schools and stuff like that.
But he also has a base of pastors in each area. Yeah. Or Keita. Hey, Keita. Shout out to my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Lupa, who I'm friends with on Facebook. I was her favorite. Look at you. Look at you. Yeah. I'm friends on Facebook with Mrs. Patterson. She used to have us spend the night, and like I remember she's the one who got me interested in public speaking. She entered me in like a public speaking contest.
Is that who we need to reach out to? The big mouth?
I don't like you. How do we get in touch with the CFBU homeschooling family?
That should be a thing.
Tiana, you creating stuff. I don't know. We're going to have to make that a thing.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yes.
I love it when we get letters from people that are getting more active about discipling their kids, educating their kids, getting engaged. That's what we are all about. So.
Trimaris, Shamika said, did you put your email in the chat?
Yeah.
But Shamika, I'm telling you, if we're not already friends, friend me and then DM me. And if we are friends, then just DM me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why Kevin homeschool. Kevin, yeah, buddy. Kevin's wife, man, Shalonda. The one and only Mrs. Briggins.
Brandon wants a CFBU pastor group.
A CFBU pastor. Y'all starting all kind of group. I'm telling you, we need chapters.
Oh, Carlin Charleston.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Y'all are so awesome. Okay, so we need a pastors group and
homeschooling group.
They said a new homeschooling Facebook group.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. We are OG. Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
Yay! You will continually call our former teachers by Mr. and Mrs. Yes, we will. Yes. I mean, because if we older, and they was old when we was kids, you got it. You can't just be like, hey, Ralph. No. And that's also something I learned in South Africa, is that anyone older than me is an aunt or an uncle.
Yeah.
Out of respect. So I first learned this
You're in my space.
Sorry, I first saw this among the Filipino culture. And having a ton of Filipino friends, that there was always, when you were addressing someone who was older than you, there was always a title that went before it. But in South Africa, it's always auntie or uncle. And so like Tani this, Tani that. And and so I
remember that when you were still in South Africa, we barely knew each other. And you had your students make a little video for me. And they were saying hi to me.
Tani Krista.
Yeah. Like you had to explain to me what that was.
Tani.
Oh, that was cute.
Yeah, Tani Krista. And so like but I think as Christians, it also just adds a little bit more of like, we really like, there is something ontologically just that we're connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rakita says that she's open to providing her public speaking youth program to Christian homeschool groups, 7th and 8th grade. That's awesome.
Yes. See what I'm saying? This is the importance of the family meeting. Yes.
All right.
It's time for us to go. Pauline is waiting.
You gotta go see Pauline.
Pauline is waiting.
She's in town.
She is. If I can do a live with her before she goes, I'll try.
Maybe just make even a short video on your phone and we could play it next week.
Yeah, that would be good, because then it can be edited out.
What are you expecting?
Yeah, I don't know.
The unexpected.
That is Pauline. We love her. Please do a live. Yes. Oh, the wisdoms of Pauline.
The wisdoms of Pauline.
Yes.
Look, this is a woman.
Pearls. That's it. The pearls of Pauline.
She raised 4 children. You all have respectable jobs. You work hard.
My brother's a fireman.
He's a fireman and a nurse.
Yes, he's a fireman and a nurse. And he is definitely, I don't know what's happening outside
what
the window.
Is going on outside the window.
Yes, he's the family favorite.
Is he?
Oh gosh, he's the only boy.
I thought you were the favorite.
No, not by any means. They barely tolerate me. Yes. Mark is the family favorite.
Well, your mother's to be commended. She raised 4 children in the hood, and y'all made it. She kept you alive.
Yes. yes, she did. She's a good woman. All right.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, guys. See you next week.
Bye.